NFL Insider Dan Graziano has revealed a shocking New York Jets head coaching update, predicting that Woody Johnson hires Arthur Smith to be the next Jets head coach, while the Jets miss out on guys like Aaron Glenn and Brian Flores, who they are very interested in, and we're going to break it all down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris and Matt here, and we're going to jump right into things as always. If you guys like the content, make sure to subscribe. It helps us out a ton. Matt didn't even have to duck this time. Look at that. We're cooking already. Guys, if you guys are enjoying, subscribe. However, let's jump right into this because there's been a lot of New York Jets head coaching updates. As we know, a lot of people have been involved in the next potential Jets head coaching interviews, and Dan Graziano revealed that he believes that Arthur Smith, the current Steelers offensive coordinator and former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, is going to be the next New York Jets head coach. Now, this would obviously be terrible, specifically for anyone who likes to draft Jets players in fantasy football, but on another note, I think this is a hire that most Jets fans would not be too thrilled about. I certainly would not be. Now, taking a look at Graziano and what he mentioned, he said he could certainly see the Jets ending up with guys like Aaron Glenn or Brian Flores, but I've already predicted those guys to land elsewhere. Smith was a candidate of interest with Jets owner Woody Johnson back in 2021 when the team hired Robert Saleh, but at the time, Johnson was serving as an ambassador to the United Kingdom and was not directly involved in the search. The Jets also considered bringing in Arthur Smith and adding him to their offensive staff last season before the Steelers hired him as their defensive coordinator. Now, Graziano did mention other guys, such as saying that he believes Aaron Glenn will be hired by the New Orleans Saints, the other team that Glenn could theoretically go to, the other frontrunner for him, and that Brian Flores would end up becoming the head coach of the Chicago Bears. So the New York Jets would be missing out on those two. Obviously, I would not be too upset if the New York Jets missed out on Brian Flores, especially because, Matt, I didn't realize that he's in shape now. So that really takes any interest that I had out of him since he's not fat. Now, Arthur Smith, not necessarily a fat guy, but he is a bigger boy. That might work. However, I'm not the biggest fan of Arthur Smith. I don't love the job that he did in Atlanta. Obviously, the Steelers did not have a good offense, yet made the playoffs anyway, and looked like they had a great offense against the New York Jets, so maybe there's some logic to this. I'll be honest, if they hired Arthur Smith, I wouldn't be too surprised. If Woody Johnson likes him, then Woody Johnson could likely hire him.
So let's take a look at Arthur Smith's past in the NFL. He's been an offensive coordinator twice, this year with the Pittsburgh Steelers and in 2019 to 2021 with the Tennessee Titans. And in the 2 years when he was the offensive coordinator for the Titans, he put up, in 2019, he was their offense, 12th in total offense and 3rd in rushing yards per game. 2020, 3rd in total offense and 2nd in rush yards per game. So those were really, really successful offenses. But we always talk about it. Just because you're a successful offensive coordinator does not automatically mean that you're going to translate into being a good offensive head coach as well. Let's take a look at what happened to the offense and the rushing offense when Arthur Smith got the keys to the castle and was able to be the head coach in Atlanta. 2021, 29th in total offense, 31st in rushing yards per game. 2022, 24th in total offense and 3rd in rush yards per game. So that went up. Then 2023, his final season, 17th in total offense, so middle of the road, 10th in rush yards per game. That was, of course, with the newcomer, top 10 pick Bijan Robinson running the show at running back. And every single year he finished at 7 and 10 with the Atlanta Falcons. So very, very, very mediocre are the results, 7 and 10. Of course, not the worst thing in the world, but not what anyone's looking for. However, even though I am someone who is in agreement with Chris and I don't want Arthur Smith to be the next head coach of the New York Jets, I think he deserves some credit of what he did with that team because that was a really, really bad roster. They didn't give him a quarterback. He was trying to make it work with Desmond Ridder one of those years. Then there was, of course, the year that their fingers slipped and they drafted a running back in the top 10. That was, embarrassing. Let's see if a Super Bowl winner actually wins by paying a running back and by investing heavily in a running back. So, yep, that's a really bad team. He did a good job. However, he keeps every single time he's had these opportunities as an offensive coordinator, he does really well. But when he got that opportunity as a head coach, just nothing very exciting. He did well enough to where Woody Johnson is probably going to want to take a close look at him. And that, of course, led to Dan Graziano predicting Arthur Smith to be the head coach of the New York Jets. But, man, that is not – after reading the stats, hearing the stats that I just read off, that is not a guy that any New York Jets fans should be actually excited for. I would call him the best of a bad situation, but I don't even know if I'd go that far with him. We are living in a world with these Dan Graziano predictions where Aaron Glenn's already gone. Mike Vrabel's already gone as well. So who do you even go for after that? I mean, it's gonna get dicey after that because we know Rex Ryan isn't in the picture. We don't want Brian Flores because we think he's gonna be mean to our players. So because that's what he did to Tua in Miami. Man, after you get past Aaron Glenn, if we don't pick him up as a head coach, it gets dark early. Like those head coaching candidates, they all have warts on their profile. There is no one that there's no guy they're looking at and you're like, oh yeah, that's the guy. Everyone, you look at him and you go, yeah, but, and you think about it and you go, ooh, I'm not sure that's the guy. No matter who Woody Johnson hires, there's going to be an uproar in the community because unless it's Aaron Glenn, the new coach is probably not going to be received very well by Jets fans because with how wide the search has been and with there have been so many names in the search, people have attached themselves to the guy they want. So whoever does get hired, they're just going to look at it and go, oh, that's not the guy I wanted. So then they're just going to say they're going to pile hate on him. We got to remember whoever is hired as a head coach, we got to support our guy because he's the person who is committing his future in the league is going to be committed to trying to help us as Jets fans to try to help us see success in the NFL, something the New York Jets have, of course, not found in a long time. Is it going to be Arthur Smith? I really hope Dan Graziano is not correct, but I do think Arthur Smith, I think he's definitely not the worst candidate out there, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not the worst. Like, obviously there was success in Atlanta. It's not a super inspiring hire. I feel like a year coming off of coaching with Mike Tomlin would be helpful for anyone, probably. Just some part of Mike Tomlin, his ability might rub off on you, which is always a nice thought. But, like, it's one of these situations where, as you said, the second Aaron Glenn's gone, there's a steep drop-off. Now, Graziano explained this a little bit further, saying that in the past, Johnson has been known to lock in a bit of his personal favorites. Remember, he lost out on Adam Gase to the Dolphins in 2016, then later hired Gase 3 years later after the Dolphins fired him. I couldn't even read that right because I was so busy looking at Adam Gase's just hideous face. And look, he looks hideously ugly there. I don't know. Hopefully there's better photos out there, but I'm not going to use one. I hate that guy. But also, as Graziano mentions, the Jets search is sprawling. They've also interviewed GM candidates, and they're asking for them about potential head coaches. They're also asking head coach candidates about potential GMs. So there's a ton to still be figured out here. But with limited information about who might be the front runner at this point, I'll take Smith. For most of this season, he found a way to make something pretty effective out of a not great quarterback situation in Pittsburgh. Look, he's not wrong there. It wouldn't be the worst hire in the world. It just doesn't feel like it would be something where it feels like we're going to see this massive culture change or something like that. I feel like, yes, he'll make the offense better. Yes, he's a competent head coach, but it doesn't feel like he's exactly what the Jets need. The Jets need a full 180. It doesn't feel like Arthur Smith is the guy to do a full 180. It feels like some guy who would coach the Jets for 4 years, then get fired after the Jets are just painfully middle of the road.
So if the Jets did hire him, we could expect a lot of Breece Hall and even more Braylon Allen because if there's something about Arthur Smith, he likes to keep his number one running back healthy. So he gives the backup running backs a lot of carries. Like Chris said in the opener, it's really frustrating in fantasy, but for the long-term health of our starting running backs, it makes a ton of sense in real life. It's absolutely the way to handle guys. If you have a backup running back who can handle a ton of carries and is a talented running back, like we have Braylon Allen, the Falcons had Tyler Algier. If you have a guy who can successfully take touches away from your bell cow running back, that is something that Arthur Smith is going to want to utilize. And with the talent on our team, I really think Arthur Smith is going to covet the Jets job because he knows that he can make something good out of a really bad quarterback situation. Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, obviously not what any head coach wants to have at the quarterback position, but he made it work this year. He took him to the playoffs. The Falcons, Desmond Ridder, they still went 7-10. He deserves, like I said, deserves some credit for that. So definitely a very uninspiring hire, though, Chris. You said it perfectly.
I will say the running back thing I do like. I'm a big fan of that. And I think the offense would make it'd be more sound, but yeah, it's just I'd rather the Jets look elsewhere. I'd rather it be Arthur Smith over a lot of these guys that we have seen, in fairness, though. Like, a day or two ago, I read the list of the 15 guys they've interviewed, and I mean, a lot of them are uninspiring. And that's what happens most of the time when you're looking for head coaches. It's either a guy who's not known yet, a guy who's never going to be known, or a guy who is known, and if they're not having a coaching job, as you've said 10 million times, there's a reason for it. But guys, let us know what you think down below. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. We had to end this video a little earlier than usual because Matt said that he cannot stand looking at me because I'm just that ugly. Is what it is, boys. And, like, potentially if any girls are watching Jets Digest, which would blow my mind. Have a great day and go Jets.